Did you know that Jesus gave a formula for forgiving others? And based on that, how many times do you have to forgive? Well, Jesus said, forgive a lot. Good morning, and welcome to 755 Live. For about 5 minutes, you'll hear all about easy-to-remember soundbite versions of what Jesus said. And the point is to help you experience life to the fullest, the Jesus way. Today's Jesus Said comes from Matthew 18, 21 through 22. But we're going to be talking a lot about that chapter. I would recommend that you read the whole chapter later on. So reading today from the NET translation, Matthew 18, 21. Then Peter came to him and said, Lord, how many times must I forgive my brother who sins against me? As many as 7 times? But Jesus said to him, not 7 times, I tell you, but 77 times. Now, right before this, Jesus had given what I kind of call the forgiveness formula. It was a process for restoration, if you have or someone has something against you. And the recipe was, first you go to them, and then next you take somebody with you, and then next you bring it before the body, before the church. Well, if you don't follow that recipe, you're going to get different results. And most conflict won't be resolved unless you follow this process, because it's really too easy to just disconnect in our culture. I mean, we can unfriend, unfollow, just start going somewhere else. Well, Jesus gave this formula because this is the best way to resolve conflict and to learn about forgiveness. Now, it was after this that Simon Peter was looking for an out. I mean, he's like, hey, wait a minute. So how many times would I have to forgive? How many times would I have to go through this process? And Jesus said 77 times or 70 times 7, some translations say. Whatever the literal translation of that, it really means an unlimited number of times in the Greek. And Peter was asking, well, when can I give up? When is it okay to be angry? And sometimes we do the same thing, trying to justify our anger, calling it righteous indignation, when actually our indignation isn't of any use at all. In fact, James 1:20 says, for human anger does not accomplish God's righteousness. Your own anger is not indignant, righteous anger, because that's pretty specific there. Human anger doesn't accomplish God's righteousness. It doesn't have a righteous indignation exception clause. Now, Paul in Romans 12 goes into detail about what God's righteousness looks like as we respond to evil or conflict. Let's read from that. Romans 12, 17 through 21. Do not repay anyone evil for evil. Consider what is good before all people. If possible, as far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all people. Do not avenge yourselves, dear friends, but give place to God's wrath, for it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. Rather, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he's thirsty, give him a drink. For in doing this, you will be heaping burning coals on his head. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. You see, it's that principle of overcoming evil with good that allows us to actually do what Jesus said about forgiveness. Because forgiveness isn't giving up or a compromise of your standards or letting someone off the hook. Forgiveness is where our peace and joy can be found if we let God do his job. Because God is much better at dealing with conflict. God is much better at dealing with those that we're holding something against. Our job is to do what Jesus said about the forgiveness formula. Go to someone first, rinse and repeat. How many times? Well, 77, 70 times 7, it's a bunch. And we're supposed to just let it go. Let God handle it. Because Jesus said, forgive a lot. How can you put that into action today. Thank you so much for listening. If this is meaningful to you, it really does mean a lot. When you like it, when you share it, when you comment, I really, really do appreciate you. Man, I hope that you have an amazing day, and I hope this time together has helped you live life to the fullest, the Jesus way. And remember, follow Jesus today. Love first.